Hi, students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I am streaming to you from beautiful Central Europe in the capital city of Hungary, Budapest. I hope everybody is having a great time. I see that there are non-members in the chat. This is a members chat class. Hi, Danish. So I'm going to try to change the settings on it. Just give me one moment. All right. So again, this is a members chat class. Tyinder Arena, my apologies for that. But we will have an all chat class coming up in 90 minutes, so threat not. Members chat classes is one of the perks. It's one of the advantages for being a member. Hi Preeti, hi Begzod, hi Danish. And in today's members chat class, we will look at an IELTS task 2 writing. Practice for band 9. This question, I believe, was submitted to us by Rahul. So hopefully he'll end up joining the class as well. As usual, our materials come from our websites. For general IELTS students, check us out at gieltshelp.com. And for the academic version of the test, check us out at aehelp.com. Members, can you send me a couple messages just to make sure that you're able to chat okay in the class? So Danish, Bagzod, if you're there, just send me a hello. Others for Dobbs, that'll help a little bit. Hi for Dobbs. All right. So again, students, in the full courses on our websites, in the premium package, there are over 100 hours of video lessons in HD. This is for the academic. Click that red button to join. For the general, this is the website here with the green background. Click that red button to join that one there. Preeti, Bagzod, thank you. Okay, got you. Perfect. All right. Questions, comments, and members, send me requests for these members chat classes to Adrian, Adrian, at aehelp.com. Okay, so make sure you send those requests. I believe it was Rahul who sent me today's request, but maybe I will be corrected later on that. Again, members chat class task 2. Right now, in 90 minutes, we will have a reading class for everyone. Let's take a look at today's question. Here it is. So IELTS writing task 2. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. And I believe this was a real exam question just recently. Yuru? Danish is asking about word limits. Danish, yeah, I'll talk about word limit here in just a second, okay? All right, there you are, Rahul. So it is you, I was right. Okay. So here is the question. Write about the following topic. Economic growth and development are usually considered to be beneficial both for individuals and for society as a whole. Do the advantages of economic development outweigh the disadvantages? Rahul, was this an actual IELTS question recently, or did you get it from some other practice material? Can you share that with the group, please, while I go into this? It's a good question. Okay, and then, of course, it says give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Fantastic. All right. So step number 1, let's paraphrase this question. So let's write this using our own words. Go ahead, everybody, and do that. Okay, thanks for sharing that, Rahul. So in the chat, notice that Rahul says it is from IDP material, which is okay. IDP is one of the governing bodies of the IELTS exam. It's uh, together with British Council and Cambridge ESOL Examination Board. Just so you know, students, it is actually Cambridge ESOL Examination Board that creates the materials. So British Council and IDP's materials are going to be very similar, but the official exams are originating from Cambridge ESOL Examination. Okay, so that's a valuable piece of advice. When we develop our materials on our websites, we always reference Cambridge materials because the Cambridge materials are the closest, of course, to the official exams, and they are official exams, some of them the past papers. Okay. Hi, Reba. Welcome to the class. All right, so let's paraphrase this together. I'll be looking at the chat for that. Any questions about what I just said about IDP, British Council, let me know. All right. So here we go. And at home, when you're paraphrasing, don't be shy. Correct, rewrite, reword to be as well paraphrased as possible. Okay. So you're always reaching for that maximum paraphrasing, meaning saying it as differently with as different words as possible from the original, but still with the same information. Okay, so here's an example of that. Economic growth and development are usually considered to be beneficial both for individuals and for society as a whole. Now, here's what I wrote. Advancements in financial welfare are frequently thought of as positive for both people and communities in general. All right? Those two statements are more or less the same concept. This shows that I understand the question so far, and I've collected some useful vocabulary for my essay, and even some sentence or a statement there for my introduction. Bagzod says financial improvement is often believed to be a positive for people and for the public. Very nice, Bagzod. Rise is a bit awkward, so I took that out. Do the positives of this growth outweigh the negatives? Okay, Bagzod, that works. That's a nice paraphrase. Financial rise is it's a little bit strange, but financial improvement is good. Okay. Growth and development are kind of redundant here. It means that they're repetitive, slightly different, but very similar. Rahul says financial enhancement and development are usually considered to be vital for citizens as well as the nation as a whole. Okay, Rahul, that's good. Do the advantages of economic development outweigh the disadvantages? Overtake is an awkward word in that context, Rahul. Okay, Igul, good to see you in class, says the prosperity of a country's economic state is important for persons and for the nations in general. Okay, Igul, I did a little bit of adjusting there, but otherwise right. Preeti says financial proliferation and progress are believed to be profitable for both people and the community. Preeti, that's good, okay? Financial proliferation. It's a good use of the word proliferation, and progress especially. So if we want to combine yours with Bag's odds, progress and improvement are also good ways to paraphrase. Absolutely. Okay. Danish, the increment and advancement in financials are often a positive for every person and the nation as a whole. Good. Euro, Meng, financial prosperity is regarded to positively affect both individuals and society. Really nice. I love the diversity. You know, a lot of students feel that, it's really hard to paraphrase that statement, or there's maybe just one other way. But it's good to notice that as many of us as there are in this class is as many ways that we can paraphrase what's being said here. So don't limit your thinking. There's always different ways to express the same idea. Marwa, good to see you in class. It says economic progress are usually thought to be advantageous for both society and people. Marwa, another good way to paraphrase. Okay. So I'm going to paraphrase the second part. Some of you already did that. Do the benefits of such progress outweigh the negatives? Now, here, let's say that I'm paraphrasing that, and I'm having trouble thinking of another way to say outweigh, especially in this context. Just write down the word outweigh, and then in my review pane, if I'm using Microsoft Word, I can highlight that word outweigh. And then again, in my review pane, I can even right-click and find this. I can find the thesaurus. Don't forget about that really important tool of the thesaurus, okay? Now, it's a little bit small here, but the synonyms it's giving me for outweigh are overshadow, offset, compensate, balance, dwarf, okay? I like the word dwarf, so I'm going to use it. For some of you who might not be familiar with this word dwarf, okay? The dwarf is the antonym of, anybody know the antonym for the word dwarf? What's the opposite if we're thinking a noun? Marwa says tall. More accurately, Marwa, it's giant. Okay, so dwarf, a small person. Okay, there is actually a disorder called dwarfism. And the opposite is giant or gigantism. Okay, so interestingly, dwarf, okay, can be used as a verb, okay, as well. All right, and giant cannot. So dwarf can be used as a verb, giant cannot. Remember that. Okay, all right. So what's the topic in this question? Let's just go through it nicely, step by step. This is, Rahul, this is typically one of those questions where you really need to visualize and consider the topic before you start writing. The IELTS exam usually has task 2 questions that require some planning and thinking. You can't just spontaneously and quickly answer them. If you do that, it's virtually impossible to get a high band score. Okay? Better late than never, Alvina. It's all right. Okay? So here, it's really important to figure out what we're talking about. Okay, economic growth and development. Sure. So that's what we're talking about. Now, hopefully, maybe we have a member who is familiar with economics and what that actually is defined as. So the topic is economic growth. What is that? So what is economic growth? Now, we reduced it in our paraphrase to finances, but it's not just purely finances. So economic growth and development, sure, that's our topic. What does that actually translate to? What does that actually translate to? So Marwa says it means more job opportunities, more investments, better financial situation. Money flow, or cash flow. Sure. Increase in GDP, Preeti says. Yeah, everybody know what GDP actually means? Yeah, it's gross domestic product. Okay. Gross domestic product. Domestic means local, so what is produced in the country. And it's the overall products produced in the country. So let's say the country of Brazil starts to produce more coffee, then they increase their gross domestic product of coffee. Okay. And Brazil, as some of you may know, exports 1/3 of all of the world's coffee. So it's a major part of their gross domestic product. So when you think of economic growth, one good way to think about it is just more supply and demand, of course, because that is the usual case. So more supply and demand. So that's what that is. All right. Why have economic growth? That's the next question, right? Again, thinking of questions, I shouldn't have told you that. I should have just asked you to think about that question. Thinking about the right question is very important. So make sure at home you're always practicing thinking about the correct question in these task 2 essays, okay? So why have economic growth? Okay, so why is economic growth favored? Why do people think of it positively? Okay. What's the reason for it? Why would we want? Okay, so Hung, in a very simple way, says, well, just simply put, individuals have better lives. Okay, sure. Igul says people have greater wealth. All right. Now, these terms, better lives and wealth, are those qualitative or quantitative? Baghdad says people have more money. Preeti says increases standard of living. Sure, those all work. Are these quantitative or qualitative terms? So is this something that I can measure clearly, or is it subjective? Is it something that we can say, hey, one person says that's a lot of money, somebody says that it's not so much, okay? Alvina says these are qualitative. So saying better lives or having more wealth is more qualitative than quantitative. That's right, Rahul. Yeah, it's more quality than quantity. So can you define for me what this means quantitatively? So what is this quantitatively? How can we define economic growth quantitatively with numbers? So Rahul says higher per capita income and salaries. Sure. So, okay. Okay, absolutely. Okay, what else? Yeah, so Begzod, there you go. Now you're thinking smart, right? So more products in stores, hundreds of clothes, cars, food to choose from. Okay, so Yeah, just simply more products, right? Hi, Kesey. Yeah, I know VPN can be a pain sometimes, but you're in here now. It's great. Yeah, so we actually have more products, right? We have more shoes in our closet. We have more cars in our garage. We have 2 or 3 cars instead of 1 car. All right, sure. So that would also answer the how. How can economic growth be seen? Or another way to say it is measured. Okay, we could say person makes 5K USD per month instead of 3K, just like what I said. Or person has 3 shoes instead of 1, right? So that's how we can actually see that development, right? New buildings, new schools. All right, that's fantastic. Now, what is the controlling idea? And you really have to go far down this rabbit hole to get a good answer for this essay. And I think that's why, Rahul, you sent this question, because you wanted to see how to develop the right ideas for responding to this kind of an essay, right? So here's the original question again. Don't be shy to go back and read it when you're thinking of these topic, controlling idea, critical thinking, what, why, how. So economic growth and development are usually considered beneficial for both individuals and for society. Advancements in social welfare, okay, that's my paraphrase. Do the advantages of economic development outweigh the disadvantages? So what's the controlling idea? Begzod says, do the benefits outweigh the negatives? Yeah, Yuru says the same, whether the benefits for people and society are more, right? So yeah, so it's the actual nature of this question. That's the controlling idea. So are the benefits more than the deficits, or more valuable, let's say? All right, so how should I approach this? Okay, I really want to teach you how to fish and not just give you fish. So I want you to develop your thinking here. How should I figure out what thesis to create for this essay? What should be my approach here? What should I ask myself? So what is the right question to follow here? And of course, at home, you're doing this on paper. It's very important. So what is the next logical question to ask myself so that I find direction in my writing? Okay, Yuru says, what are the benefits and deficits? Not quite. Hung says, what is the benefits and deficits? Begzod says, why economic growth is important. Now, Begzod, that's because we're talking about the benefits, right? So why is economic growth beneficial? Okay. And notice that we already kind of answered that, right? So here, when we ask what, why, how about the topic, sometimes it doubles for our controlling idea. So why have economic growth? We already said people have better lives, wealth, more actual dollars, more income, more products in the stores, hundreds of clothes, not cloths, clothes, cars, food to choose from. Okay, so those are obviously benefits. Okay. Now, if it makes you feel comfortable, you can ask that question again, or you can just use what you have already. So what are the benefits of economic growth? More choices for products, more buying power, more services in society. Right? That's the answer. So more choices for products, more buying power, more services in society, right? Alvina, you don't want to jump there yet. So Alvina says, do I agree that economic growth is good for society? You might not be able to decide that yet, Alvina, not before you actually think about it a little bit more. So I always suggest, especially Alvina, when you're at home practicing for the exam, go through the steps one by one. Don't jump to your decision because it might not be the right decision or it might not be the easy decision for your essay to get that high band score. Okay, remember, Alvina, your goal here is a high band score. It's not necessarily to express your honest opinion, okay, or your first intuition. So be very careful, Alvina. Go through the steps. Don't let your brain overjump some critical pieces of information, okay? Marwa says we must discuss the negatives and the benefits and then say whether the benefits outweigh the negatives. Yeah, Marwa, that's a good approach. So let's think about that first, right? Let's get an idea of what are some of those negatives, what are some of those positives. So we already thought about the positives a bit. Here I've defined it further as more choices for products, more buying power, more services in society, right? Of course, here at home, you would have the why and the how also. And then we'll go to the what are the negatives of economic growth. Okay. So let's focus on this question for just a moment. What are the negatives of economic growth? More buying power, Danish, means that you can actually buy more with your money. So let's say you have $100. When you have strong economy, you can buy more with your $100. So instead of just one pair of shoes, you can buy 3 pairs of shoes. So you have more buying power. Does that make sense, Danish? Okay. Euro says inflation of prices with economic growth. No, not necessarily, Euro. Economic growth is quite the opposite. So when prices inflate, that's usually a recession, and it's not economic growth, but it's an economic downturn or it's an economic decline. Okay, so inflation, recession, depression, those are in a poor economic or a weakening economic state, not in an economic development. Okay, so careful not to confuse that. Eventually, Euro, it can lead to that, but that's not really what we're talking about. Okay. All right, Hung, I really like your critical thinking, and I think you were visualizing there. The deficits are environmental damage, more waste, and more carbon emissions. Yes, absolutely. The negatives of economic growth, as we can see in the world, are greater demand on Earth's resources, pollution, which includes carbon emission, right? So Hung, you're kind of rolling the why and the how in there, right? Unnecessary consumption, waste, absolutely. People waste when there is economic development. We are a more wasteful society now than ever before. We're, in fact, building islands out of garbage, which is quite incredible. Okay. Greed. Okay. Is definitely one. So people become greedy. They want more and more, right? Okay. So those are the definite negatives of economic growth. So pressure on Earth's finite resources. Finite is the opposite of infinite, meaning that there's an end to it. Okay. Finite is the opposite of infinite. Okay? Obviously, Earth does not have an infinite amount of resources. We are limited in how much water, air, oil, trees, and so on we have. So we're not infinitely resourced. Instead, we are in a finite resource situation. Okay? Igul says it can lead to greater problems in health as well for individuals, such as obesity. Yeah, and I don't think we're being unrealistic when we say that any country which has, or any nation or empire that has experienced a strong economic development, in most cases has become unhealthy. So, not just thinking about the United States and obesity and health issues there, but even in empires past, such as the Roman Empire, economic development led to obesity among many Romans as well. Okay. All right. So those are definitely some of the big negatives. Okay, so we could get into the why and the how, and we can get into that later. But I think we have enough now to decide our thesis. And I'm very curious what you will decide. Okay, so let me ask you one more time. Do you think that the concept of economic development and growth, or the state of economic development and growth, is beneficial and outweigh the negatives? What do you think? So what is your response to this question? Now that you've critically thought about it, you've thought about the benefits of economic growth and development, you've thought about the negatives, and notice how we've realized now that it's not just about money and finance, so economic growth is about much more than just money. What is your answer? Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So Marwa says no. Begzod says no. Hung, careful with the gap between rich and the poor become larger. That's a much bigger essay for university, not for the IELTS exam. Marwa says we're destroying the environment. Rahul says, yes, I do believe that it does. Okay. Alvina says, I would say yes. Roshni says it has a direct impact on our survival. All right. So you're giving me your opinion. Rather than just giving me your opinion, members, give me your thesis. I'd love to see your thesis, and I want to give you a chance to think about your thesis before I give you mine, because I don't want to influence your thinking. Okay? Igul says, I am for economic growth, and the bad sides of it can be solved. Igul, that's almost a thesis. Okay? Igul, take what you said there and turn that into a clear thesis. Okay? I think you have a good idea, and I think you can change that into a good thesis. You need to play with it a little bit more. Okay? Go ahead, students. In your own concept, there's definitely more than one correct argument here. The idea is, what is your argument and how well can you state it? Okay, so that's why, Rahul, this was a very good question, and I liked how you sent it, because there's more than one way to answer this, and it really depends on your thinking and your ability to argue your ideas. Okay, Roshni says, can I see that question one more time? Sure thing, Roshni. Here we go. So the question one more time is, economic growth and development are usually considered to be beneficial for both individuals and for society as a whole. Do the advantages of economic development outweigh the disadvantages? Okay, that's the original question, Roshni. So now we need the thesis for it. And the key pieces we need for that thesis is economic growth, more jobs, investment, cash flow, increase in gross domestic product, leads to better lives, more wealth, okay, more choices of products. The benefits again include more buying power, more services in society. The negatives of economic growth means greater demand on Earth's finite resources, pollution, unnecessary consumption, waste, greed, obesity, or health problems, right? Okay. So I see some of you have come up with your thesis statements. That's really good. Begzod says, although financial improvement can allow people to buy various products and have more job opportunities, I do believe that it has more negatives than benefits. As such, growth not only impacts the Earth's resources, but also leads to more pollution. Okay, Begzod, I definitely think that if you develop those ideas into your body paragraphs and do a good job, you're on your way to a Band 8, Band 9 essay. Okay, that the difference between Band 8, Band 9, Begzod will just depend on how well you use your grammar, your vocabulary. Otherwise, your ideas and your structure are clearly at the highest level. Okay, so that's good. All right, Hung says, although economic growth may cause negatives in society, I believe the benefits are more positive for both people and communities. Careful, Hung, not communicate, communities, because of more cash flow and more investment to solve problems. Okay, Hung, you have a possible thesis. However, you don't have two clearly distinct points for your thesis, okay? So more cash flow and more investment, it's almost the same idea, all right? You need to make sure that your thesis points, Hung, are clearly different, okay? So, for example, because of more cash flow and products, okay? Products and services. That would be better, Hung. So instead of saying more investments, say more products and services. That's more clearly unique. Okay? You see what I'm saying there, Hung? Cash flow, more investments, more cash flow. It's kind of the same idea. You're repeating yourself. It's not clearly two paragraphs. Okay? Yuru says, although financial prosperity is usually regarded to positively affect both individuals and society, I believe the benefits are overshadowed by the deficits, considering the economy more often than not develops at the cost of the Earth's environment as well as people's health. Yuru, brilliant. Again, very, very good, okay? That's as long as you develop those points clearly, you're on your way to a Band 8, Band 9 essay. No problem, all right? Fantastic. Marwa says, although economic progress brings more choices for products and buying power, I believe the deficits of this growth outweigh the benefits since it has significant impact on Earth's environment and people's health. Marwa, that's great. I'm going to take yours for our thesis, our working thesis, okay? It's quite similar to... Now, we could go the other way. So students, just so you don't think I'm arrogant and narrow-minded with this, you could go the other way. So you could say, although economic growth brings pressure to the environment and health, I believe the benefits of having more products and buying power are significant in comparison. So you could reverse that. Okay, so if some of you are thinking, I think economic development is fine, then you can argue for that. Which one should you choose? So should you choose yes, benefits are more, or no, the benefits are not necessarily more? Which one should you choose? How do you decide that? How should you decide which one you choose? This is a very important question, members. So how should you decide whether to go with thesis A? I'm going to write down both just for fun, okay? I'm going to take Marwa's thesis here. So Marwa says, although economic progress brings more choices, for products and increases buying power. Careful with your parallel grammar form, Marwa. I believe that the deficits of this development, or this growth, yeah, because you haven't used it yet, sure, outweigh, or dwarf, outweigh, yeah, let's just stick with it. Outweigh the benefits since it has significant, I'm going to go with detrimental instead. Just because detrimental, Marwa, is a clear negative, significant isn't a clear negative. So detrimental impact on Earth's environment and people's health. Okay, so that's my first one. I'm going to turn that around. I'm guessing some of you probably answered my previous answer. So again, my question, and I see some other good thesis statements, Reba, Kisi, Aigul. Again, my question here is, which one should I choose? Should I choose this thesis? Or should I choose the other one? Marwa says we should choose according to our idea and argument. I mean, the one we have more supporting ideas for. So I think, Marwa, you're saying the same as Preeti in just a more complicated way. Preeti says that I should choose the one I can explain easily. Absolutely. So here's the opposite, right? Although economic progress brings negative impacts on Earth's environment and people's health, I believe the benefits of this growth outweigh these negatives as people have more choices of products and increased buying power. Okay, so that's the inverse. It's the opposite thesis. Okay, so there's thesis A, there's thesis B. The question here, okay, is not which one do I truly believe in. And this is kind of an interesting one, students, because I will be honest with you. I agree. I think, I can't remember which one of you said this, but you said that eventually problems like environmental problems can be solved through economic growth and development because science also develops with economic growth. And I believe that. I actually believe, my personal opinion, if you're wondering, I'm not sure if you are, but if you're wondering, my personal opinion is that economic growth is better for humanity because it improves our science. And if we're ethical and if we're just and moral, then we can use our economic growth to solve problems like pollution and health and so on. It's just, unfortunately, we're often unethical and immoral. But I do believe that economic growth is good. And I believe that it would be a bad idea to stop the economic growth. However, I would not choose that for the IELTS exam because that is not a 250-word essay or 300-word essay argument. It's a 2,000-word essay argument best left for a university philosophy or psychology or sociology or economics, human geography class, okay? It's not for the IELTS Task 2 to get a Band 9. Does that make sense? So if I sat the exam tomorrow and I got this question, after planning and thinking about it, I would definitely go with option A, just because it's easier to write about. Okay, it's easier to say that humans are greedy and humans are destroying their planet through economic growth and buying and producing more. Okay, that's my idea. I think I would have a better chance to get a higher band score with this and stay away from dangerous situations to explain with correct grammar and vocabulary the right answer for this question, or the easy answer, I should say, with this question. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I really hope that makes sense. All right, so this one, again, Rahul, thank you for sending it. It's a great example of the importance of planning and thinking before you respond to your task 2 question. So you choose the easy path because your goal here is to get a high band score. And the IELTS markers don't really care. I'm sorry to say, but they don't really care about your opinion. They just want to see a good essay. Okay? Passing the exam and getting a high mark is your prime directive. It's your first goal. That's right, Kesey. Okay? All right? So, let's start the introduction then for this essay. And hey, students, for fun, if you really want to challenge yourself, you can take the opposite argument that economic growth is a positive, and even though it affects our environment negatively, it's our hope for the future. So you can take that approach as homework and do it another time, okay? All right, Gurkarat, I can see your messages. Welcome to class. You were quite late, so you have to catch up, okay? But yes, I can see your comments, Gurkarat, absolutely. Okay, all right. So now's a good chance, Gurkarat, to catch up, because for the introduction, we're starting with the hook. Okay, so members, give me your hook. What is a good hook for this essay? Of course, this is about economic growth and development. So your hook should include some idea or some information about economic growth and development. So Gurkarat and other students, please give me your hook. Aigul says, yes, like the USA and Europe, we should have a good economy. Absolutely, Aigul, I agree. I agree with you that having strong economies at the end of the day is good. But don't forget, Aigul, that a lot of the products that we have in the United States and Canada are manufactured in China. And if you look at the pollution problems in China because of that massive production, right? Anyway, we get into philosophy there, Aigul. But you can write about that. Okay, you can challenge yourself, Aigul, to write about that. Here, I definitely think that taking the side of economic growth and development advantages don't necessarily outweigh the disadvantages is an easier choice. Okay. Hung says, people like to earn money to have a good life. Good correction, Hung, that too is needed. So yeah, good. People like to earn money to have a good life. Yeah, I think that works as a hook. Hung, sure. Marwa is a little bit more specific in using the topic, and that is always a good idea. So Marwa says, economic development has enriched human life in many aspects. I like it, Marwa. That's very good. Okay. Aigul, it is one of the most controversial topics of our time. Notice, students, that IELTS likes to choose controversial topics of our modern time for task 2. You're often faced with these topics. Gurkharat says financial development alters the whole world. However, it is provided that it has put some merits and demerits on people and environment. Gurkharat, that's way too much for a hook. For a hook, just keep it simple. Like financial development is changing the face of the planet. That would be good, Gurkharat. Just keeping it simple. All right? So economic development is rapidly changing the face of the planet. That would be a good hook, Gurkharat. Just keeping it simple like that. All right? Reba says, advancements of technology has increased countries' progress. Reba, careful. Don't group technology with economic advancement. Technology is not the same as economic development. So that's not a good idea, Reba. If I'm the examiner and I read an essay that starts with advancements of technology has increased nation's progress, I would be like, ooh, uh-oh, this student is not writing about the right answer, and I would start thinking low band scores, so be careful, Reba. Okay? Yuru says, strengthening the economy is a prime pursuit of all nations. Yuru, yeah, that's a very clear global fact dealing with this topic. That works. Okay? Rahul says economic growth and development leads to a nation for prosperous life. Yes, Rahul. Now you don't need to repeat words, even if the question does. So you can say economic growth leads to a prosperous life. Even take out the word nation, Rahul. Just keep it even simpler. Economic growth leads to a prosperous nation, or a prosperous life, sorry. Alvina says, I've read that Korea suffers from China's pollution. I can't imagine what happens in China. Yeah, Alvina, let's put the philosophy aside and let's just focus on these sentences and band scores. But yes, Alvina, there's a lot of problems there. Okay? Economic development definitely comes at a great cost. Begzad says, almost all countries around the globe have experienced economic progress in the last 3 decades. Yeah, that's very good. That's a really nice fact, Begzad, and it's true. It's arguable that most countries around the world have experienced economic progress in the last 3 decades. I like it. Amarjeet, I missed yours. I didn't see it. Amarjeet says, financial development makes individuals and countries more progressive. Yeah, Amarjeet, that works too. That's a good one as well. Okay, so a lot of good hooks, students. I can see that many of you now have a clear idea of what it takes to write a good hook. Okay, it's a global fact. Keep it simple without any mistakes. It's your first sentence. You don't want mistakes in your first sentence. It looks really bad. Okay, it's like when you meet a person for the first time, you try to say hello, you slip and you accidentally headbutt them and hit them in the head. It just doesn't look good, okay? So when you say hello, look them in the eye, shake their hand, smile, and give a positive impression. Same thing with your hook, right? Economic development is rapidly changing the face of the planet. Keep it simple, clear, global fact, okay? All right, then comes the background, okay? And then comes the thesis. So background, we just take from what we have discussed already. So defining economic growth, right? So background is definition and importance. All right, so most countries around the world have experienced an economic boom over the past 3 decades, bringing about more products and services, as well as greater consumption. This phenomenon is changing the planet for better and worse. Okay, so that's my background, and now I'm just going to take the thesis statement and stick it in at the end. Okay, so all I'm doing now is just copying that over and putting it in. And again, at home, this is how you should practice. If you're doing the paper-based exam, make sure that you practice this on paper, not just the computer. So here is the introduction, members, and I would assume that most of you would get roughly the same. Here we go. Economic development is rapidly changing the face of the planet. Most countries around the world have experienced an economic boom over the past 3 decades. Thank you, Begzod, for that. Bringing about more products and services as well as greater consumption. This phenomenon is changing the planet for better and worse. Although economic progress brings more choices for products and increases buying power, I believe that the deficits of this growth outweigh the benefits, since it has detrimental impact on Earth's environment and people's health. All right, that is my introduction. That's guaranteed a Band 9 level introduction, okay? If you're wondering about word count on that, it is about 80, okay, which is fine for a Band 9 essay. It's definitely okay. So that's the introduction. We'll do the body paragraphs and the conclusion together tomorrow. Okay, members? That's all the time I have for today. Jashil, you just caught us at the end of class, okay? Again, if you would like to challenge yourself, members, try to write the introduction or even the whole essay for the opposite argument, that the benefits of economic development do outweigh the negatives. Remember what I said. That's actually what I believe. But to get the high band score on the IELTS exam, I would be the devil's advocate in this case, meaning I would pose the opposite argument. Okay? Begzod, I can't honestly tell you if you can copy-paste in the computer-based exam. I would assume yes. Maybe somebody else can answer that question for you. That's a good question. I haven't tried it. Okay. So, students, that's it for today. That's the introduction. Again, for our viewers, when you're a member, you get 3 of these members chat classes each week. You get to request classes. You get access to our 6 full practice exams. So there's a lot of good reasons to be a member of our YouTube channel and to get all of our products and services. Check us out at aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general. This is the general website here. Click that red button to join. And this is the academic here. Click that red button to join. Students, members, in 30 minutes, we will have a reading class for the IELTS exam with some passages or a passage and some questions. Hopefully we'll see you there. Rahul says, try the IDP sample computer-based IELTS and you'll find out. Good advice, Rahul. Kisi, you're very welcome. Greater interaction again today. Students, you're really improving. Members, you are really improving. Some of you are absolutely reaching a college, university level of writing now, and that's fantastic to see. Much love to all of you. Hopefully see you in 30 minutes. Bye for now.